taxes!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 120 of 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, Grace, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Katie and EJ.
Hello.
Today, we will be talking about the 911 Lone Star Season 5 premiere, Episode 1, titled Both Sides. And you know what? As always, we always have so much to talk about. We're getting straight into it. And we opened up with quite a scene. I was so confused.
I'm glad. We're all confused. It was crazy.
I was like, did I click into the wrong show? Are we in a horror movie?
I'm like,
is this
Jurassic
Park? To die?
I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was like a flashback. Not like a flashback, but like it could have been.
I also sort of thought it was a flashback.
The way it was set up, like a begin scene, but like not a begin scene.
Right.
I don't know what you call that.
Yeah, no, it was so strange. I was like, are we about to watch this kid die or something? What is happening? Why are they framing it like this? So we're of course talking about the sandbox scene, and there's just this kid playing in the sandbox with his dinosaurs, until some other kids bullied him, kicked him out, threw his dinosaurs away. The kids really are cool sometimes. And so he runs into the wooded area nearby and he's crying, he's upset, and he's repeating a phrase because he has a stutter, and he was getting bullied because of the stutter. And I just was like, this poor kid, I feel so bad.
Right.
And then these birds start dropping out of the sky dead. Like, they were crows. And they start dropping out of the sky dead, and I'm like, what the heck? And then this woman comes out from the bushes and scares the boy.
Like she
and
was
like,
possessed.
yeah,
Like that was creepy.
I'm like, what in the Halloween jump scare? Yeah, the birds. Well, here's the thing: the whole thing felt creepy. I'm like, what's about to happen? Is this kid about to get snatched, or are we about to have a missing kid on our hand? Like, what is the thing happening here? And then the birds started dying. And I'm like, okay, murderer, and then this, and I'm like, oh, we're officially just in a Halloween movie at this point. What the heck?
I was not sure what was happening. Yeah, I was confused.
Yeah.
And to be clear, we did not get an answer to that in this episode.
We did not, which is crazy.
We just left off.
Yeah, I mean, my theories are currently circulating. Like, that scene really confused me, like, because I was like, what is happening? Like, what is going on? I was like, somebody's having a nightmare. I was like, Carlos is having a nightmare. They got another lizard.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Like,
yeah, no,
like,
I definitely
going on?
Like, I definitely, it looks like, we all know how 911 and 911 Lone Star, like, emergencies are framed. They'll allude to the big emergency early on. They'll distract in the first episode, and then the next couple of episodes are the big disaster emergency. But the big disaster emergency is a train. So I'm like, how I can maybe wonder how the woman would fit into that if she'd been on the train or whatever, but how did the birds fit onto it? So I don't know. I have so many questions.
The birds is probably because the
gas.
The gas, yeah.
That's a good thought. Oh yeah, because it looked more like a tanker train than a passenger train.
I can't remember what they said. Was it chlorine gas? That stuff is
chlorine gas.
And it can burn you, which makes sense as to why the gal was all red-faced and looking all creepy.
Yeah. Okay, so that would make sense. So clearly it is alluding to the train, but it was certainly a jump scare for some, very much so. All right, so then we go to 1 week earlier, and we have Owen at Tommy's grief group, which I definitely had heard that we were seeing, but I, still a little surprised to see it this early on, but we love seeing it. And he mentioned a girlfriend who's now an ex-girlfriend. And I'll be honest, I really do not know if we know who he's talking about at this point.
Well,
from what I've understood,
Kendra, but it could have been another person.
See, from what I understood, it wasn't Kendra, because there was one point in the episode where Owen made a comment of like something about it being like somebody else or something like that. And I'm like, granted, like, so this is like a year since season 4, so like that makes sense. And also Owen has this trend where he basically gets a girlfriend a season.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a trend I hate, but like it's a trend.
Yeah. The real question of season 5, will Owen be single, have a girlfriend? What are we doing? Will he marry? Who
Right.
knows? This is the real question here. No, it's certainly a question though. Then he's talking about a big decision he has to make at work, and then someone is asking about, if it has to do with his brother's death. And Owen says he needs to be a little more specific. There have been a number of them who died. And I'm like, okay, well, they might not know about that, or,
Which my mind didn't even go to like Tyler, like him
Mm.
dying during Owen's childhood. I wasn't even thinking about that. Like I think I might have just forgot about it for like a
I
glimpse
kind of
of a
forgot
moment.
about it. I'll be real with you.
Like I was thinking about like his firefighter brothers, not his.
That's what I was thinking about.
Glad we're all on the same page.
Yep.
And then I remembered, and I was like, oh, right. But then Owen says that his fall happened around Robert's death, and the guy was like, oh, I'm guessing it's sudden. And Owen was like, it wasn't. They knew it was coming. Because he had Huntington's disease. So this is nice. It is helping like catch me up at least a little bit, because
Yeah.
I honestly have such memory gaps for what happened last season.
See, I remember like the major storylines, like Owen basically helping his brother die, and I'm like, obviously he can't like say that.
Say that.
So
Yeah.
that's why he's like, no, we knew it was coming.
Yeah.
I took that in more than one way.
Right. Well,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I think there is some trauma though, I feel like, because not only did he help kind of assist in certain things, but like he didn't even really know he had a brother until like later in life. So it was like, oh, I have a half brother that I didn't know about.
Oh, now he's dead.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and then everything else in there. So yeah, it was certainly something. You can tell Owen's definitely got a lot going on. As he usually does, but he's definitely got a lot on his mind at the moment.
Yeah.
And so after the meeting, Tommy and Owen they're talking, and Owen thanks Tommy for inviting him to the grief group, and Tommy's like, "You mean drag?" And Owen's like, "You didn't drag me." And then he says, "It's good to talk about Robert again."
Yeah.
And Tommy says, it's been 3 years and she still feels the same about Charles. And I'm like, it's been 3 years?
I know. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, it's been 3 years since the end of season 2. What?
I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's
Insane.
crazy because it feels like in one sense it doesn't feel like that much time has passed, but then in another sense it feels like so much time has passed.
Yeah.
I don't know why for me it feels like with Lone Star there's less of like a definition between the seasons. Like I would be able to pick out for like 911 like each season, like, oh, this ended here, this happened this season. And now, granted, I am a walking encyclopedia about a lot of 911 things, but for me, there's just less definition between what happens in Lone Star. It all feels very lumped in together. And that's not at all in a bad way. That's just how it mixed in my mind. So to me, you could tell me that Charles died last season, and sure, that wouldn't make a lot of sense with some of the storylines we got afterwards, but I would be thinking about that. I'd be like, okay, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
It's so yeah, 3 years. Amazing how time moves. And then Tommy says he didn't know about Owen's brother, and Owen says Tyler, and she asks, is that? And Owen says, yeah, that's where the T and TK comes from, which I love that. I love that little tidbit.
Right.
And Owen tells her the story, how he drowned on the beach when Owen was 13. And he mentions the guys in New York and says it's good Judd got out when he did. Which, okay, not the same thing, but okay. Owen does feel like Judd left Owen holding the bag a bit. Owen says he's taking so long that the chief is going to make the decision for him. And Tommy asks if anyone good has put their name in the ring. And Owen says, you could say that. And from there, we cut directly to Paul and Marjan head-to-head battling a hose roll game, which I love this scene. I'm just going to say, I found it so funny.
I love how it just like cuts right to that. Like they're very good at doing that. It's just like I love it.
Oh yeah, they're dropping no crumbs on story.
Right.
Catching you up on what happened in the previous season, what you need to know right off the bat. And then they're letting you know, hey, this, and this is happening very quickly. And I honestly loved how they let it all happen really quickly this episode because
Mhm.
it got me really hooked. Like I think they did a great season opener, just with their storytelling alone, not even with everything else, which was amazing, but just with that. But so we have a little friendly competition, and Nancy just says no spitty, and TK's confused, and they're making roller derby Marshawn references. And I forgot roller derby Marshawn was a thing, and I remember I was like, oh my gosh, no, you're right. Okay, no spitting Marshawn.
I
Right.
miss it.
Yeah. And everyone's taking their bets, which I'm like, never think of bets without thinking about like Hen running around with like the open thing up. But
Yes.
wait, who was collecting the bets? Was it TK or was it all just mutually
I don't
exchanging?
I don't think it was like money bets.
Mm,
It was kind of more like, oh my God, I'm rooting for this person and like that kind
okay.
of thing.
Fair. I wasn't sure if I had missed the money bets. So I was like, wait, there was money bets? This sounds about right, actually.
That would have been
And
so funny.
it would be great. Then Paul and Marjan, they're just being so nice to each other, and everyone's like, "How are you so nice?" They're like, "I won't let this competition get to them. Let the best man or woman win." I'm like, oh, this spells disaster already. So then we have a money drop gone wrong with the 126 responding, and
Oh,
so
I felt bad for that guy when he's like standing there staring at this very full truck and he's like kind of pushing it in wherever he can fit it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I misread something in the scene, and I was thinking, wait, are we watching like some very clever heist or something?
I had thought that a little bit at first because I was like, what is going on?
Because so when they open up the door, I thought like it looked like an old truck, and then I there was a sign in there which I thought said something about like immediate discharge or imminent discharge. I was like, wait, are these like is this some company that like a bank that folded or something? What is going on? So I was completely barking up the wrong tree on what this situation was, but I was like, something was weird about this whole truck thing. Not in of itself, but it did wind up going south later, as we see, because they were shot at by guys in masks. And so essentially the guy had been trying to fill, because the truck was so full already, he was trying to put another bag in there. So, again, like, yeah, as you said, it was so crazy watching him just look up at it. And he kind of just shoved it in, without thinking about balancing,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a little bit of foreshadowing. And then they're being shot at, the driver gets shot, and the armored truck flips. So it's already in pretty bad shape. And the 126 arrives, they have to figure out how to get the guys out, and
Yeah, I kind
Paul
of
sees
forgot
the
about
bloods.
car you can't get into. It's meant to not get into.
I
Mhm.
know. I was like, damn.
Yeah, see, those are great until they're not, kind
Right?
of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it generally means like if they were lucky enough to be able to get away from the firing, they could have made it through. Because it's hard to get in there, but they got just the right shot in. And Paul sees the blood splatter and tells Tommy that they may have a GSW. The truck broke the jaws. That doesn't help anybody.
Let's just hope they don't get
Um,
another call after this.
no, right. They're like, crap, well, we don't have that important tool anymore. So they have to find damage that they can like use the weak spot of. And Paul thinks of the bullet hole. And that's how they wind up getting them out. So that was like a great thought on Paul's end. Um, Sadly, the guy who was driving died. He got shot through the neck, but they were able to save the other guy. I don't think that guy had gotten shot. I think he just had crash trauma.
Yeah.
So he was on the rocks for a little bit there, but they did bring him back. Love to see some good life saving. Classic emergency. Love it. Then Owen turns the scene over to APD, but the officer there goes, well, actually, it's their scene. And enter Ranger Reyes. And God
Oh,
damn, he looks good.
oh yeah.
Yep.
That
Oh
Oh, he
yeah.
wears it.
cat does things for me.
I wasn't really on necessarily on board with the idea of him going ranger because I didn't think that's where he wanted to be. I
Right.
wanted him to go detective and all that, but damn, I'm gonna enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel for sure.
Right.
he literally
And
Papa
it's
looks so good. Carlos looks so good. I'm like, you can't look at your man.
and it was funny. I was watching it with my new roommate, and she had never seen Lone Star before. She's always only watched 911. And so she's like, so obviously she's like totally confused. And I keep having to pause and explain things to her.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Like
no.
she's like, when Carlos gets out, she's like, he looks like trouble. I was like, oh, you don't understand. So I had to pause and be like, explain it all.
Oh my
fun.
gosh.
I'm like, it's kind of interesting watching somebody react to a Lone Star episode for the first time. I haven't done that in a while.
That seems like that's like I feel like that this is maybe a really bad episode to have been reversed.
I know.
There's so much context missing.
Yeah.
But you know what? If I was just watching this casual or seeing this before and I saw that I saw Carlos get out like that, I would have had the same reaction. Being like, oh, he's gonna be causing some trouble. No, no. Only trouble in our hearts. We love him. I've just missed Carlos.
Same.
Okay.
Like
Right.
literally.
And then there of course is the classic Captain Strand, Ranger Reyes line, like
The
it's no
upgrade.
longer just
The
officer.
upgrade.
The upgrade, the glow up from officer to ranger, and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. Oh my gosh, okay, yeah, love that. Great scene, just overall. Yes, yes. Moving on. Okay, Judd. So Judd shows Wyatt the home that he personally renovated for Wyatt and his girlfriend and their little baby, and it's so cute. And he made it accessible for Wyatt because he had the time. And apparently, Wyatt mentioned that they've been looking at homes, like accessible homes, and there were just none on the market. And so I'm just like, oh my gosh, of course Judd literally renovated a house for his son.
Right.
Because as we know from Owen mentioning earlier, he no longer is at the fire station. So he had the time. And that's essentially what he said. He had the time. And Judd mentions that Grace is doing the Lord's work. And the moment he said that, I'm like, yep, it's exactly what we thought it was.
Yeah.
We called it, by the way. We called it.
I'm so glad
He's doing
they
missionary
did
work.
something like that and not try to twist something happening into the storyline.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I'm still not sold on if anything will happen, just because you know how many shows I watch where they don't do anything at first and then eventually. I'm not saying they will, but I have my eye open.
No, good
Listen,
call.
we don't need any ship trauma. Okay.
We've already
We
had
already had that in 911, and she's on a mercy ship. So they won't make that happen back to back. So as long as she stays on the ship, we're fine.
right.
Yeah.
But again, as far as we know, it's last season.
So yeah, I don't see them doing anything drastic, but I
yeah.
still got my eyes open.
I have personal hope that they might be able to renegotiate like a small contract for her to make an appearance at the end of the season. Like just as a little farewell kind of deal. If they're able to negotiate like one episode or something. But we'll see. I have no hopes. That's just a hope, a very wild, far-fetched hope. But like at least I'm glad it's all what we thought it was, and it's actually very in character, so it's not like it's all that odd.
Right.
And so Judd makes a comment about how he'll be spending Sundays, how the Lord intended, watching football, and I'm like, yes, sir.
I'm there for it, honestly. Like I love yes, I go to church. Don't at me about it, but I'm like football and Sundays. That's my thing.
I miss having my Sundays. I miss having my football days. It's been a long time since I've caught up, but so I felt that as someone who grew up watching football, I was like, oh
yeah, I think I have to be better about it. I do record the teams that I follow. I'm a Seahawks fan until I die. But
hell yeah, me too.
There's some other teams I watch, and I know there's been a lot of stuff going on lately, and I was like, I need to keep up on this a little bit more.
For sure. But so yeah, classic Judd. We love that. And then we go back. Oh boy, we're
Can
back
we just
with
say,
Carlos.
Charlie, adorable.
Charlie, oh my gosh, she's so cute. She looks absolutely precious.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I
So
completely
cute.
forgot Charlie was in this scene, but I
Yeah.
love it. I
And her
love
holding her dad's hand. And, oh,
My heart. I just
it.
I love her. Like the actresses they got to play the older version is so good.
yeah.
Because they had little boys playing the younger one, right?
Yeah. When
Mhm.
Charlie was a baby. Yeah.
I was wondering how they were going to transition because like she's of the age that to make the distinction,
Yeah.
they're going to switch over. So I was
Yeah.
like, but honestly, of that age, it's an easy transition as long as you don't find someone of completely different face shape.
Right.
um, but still, yeah, Charlie looks so cute. So yep, now we're back with Carlos and the Rangers, and they're talking about the the money drop case. And apparently this is not the first one. There have been other instances of similar situations, money drops gone wrong. And so Carlos is presenting it, and I'm just like, boy, you're doing a PowerPoint presentation. Like, yes, of course, but it was just so funny to me for some reason. Um, and we have this other ranger, Campbell, and Ranger Bridges, who apparently we met in one of the finale episodes.
Yeah. Yeah. He was the one that presided over Gabriel's funeral and was his Gabriel's boss.
Yes.
That makes sense. I was like, he did look familiar, but I couldn't remember who he was.
And I think he was actually with Owen when they stopped Carlos from killing that guy.
Oh,
Yeah, I
maybe.
think so.
And he
I
called
feel like in
Carlos
rewatch.
son and like, your daddy and
Mm.
things like that. I think he was there.
That would make sense. So yeah, again, I thought he looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. Cool. So Campbell is voicing how he thinks Carlos shouldn't handle the case, that he should stick to something else, and Bridges sticks up for Carlos, saying he dealt with way more than DUIs. He solved kidnappings and even helped bag a serial killer. And then he decides that Carlos and Campbell will work on the case together. Sort of together. It's like do it your own way, and we'll figure out who comes
Right?
out on top, kind of deal.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So definitely a little bit of prejudice from Campbell, just simply in this is an APD officer thinking he can be a big shot like his daddy, kind of deal. Like just that. I would have been surprised if he didn't get that.
And I I have not looked into what it takes to become a Texas Ranger. So I don't know like how long it usually takes someone, but I know there were some comments in throughout the show about I'm sure Campbell is like, okay, this kid, literally just came in here, whose dad, yes, was a major in the Rangers, and he's kind of put off by that, I think. I was like, I don't know if I like you or not. It's gonna take some
Yeah.
while for me to warm up to this guy.
Do we know
Yeah.
how long Carlos has been an officer?
I don't think we ever got any confirmation, but he definitely wasn't
Yeah.
a rookie in season one.
Yeah, he had a couple years. So I just googled what it takes to be a Texas Ranger. Of
Of course you did.
course I did. So like, okay, well, if the dreaded AI overview has anything correct here, it actually seems like there's only one specificity. So he needs an exemplary record of at least 8 years of law enforcement experience, and the last 2 years of which must be the Texas Department of Public Safety. Yeah, okay, so that's from the government website as well. And they do like exhaustive background checks
Yeah.
and stuff. So he already has a great record within law enforcement. I don't necessarily know about that whole Department of Public Safety bit. That might have been what got glossed over. And also we don't know how long Carlos has been a cop. So that might have fudged a little on the years, but he's not far off.
Well, and I know we've heard kind of coming episodes, I don't know which one, that TK is turning 30. So we know that they're around that age.
Yeah.
So 8 is potential. I mean, and I know that he's been a ranger because even Campbell was like, well, 9 months ago he was, I was like,
Yeah.
okay. Like, quit putting a timeline on things
I
here.
know
Yeah.
somebody was like, and like, this is terrible and there's no look, but somebody was like, God, he looks like a homophobe. And I was like,
Are we saying this just because he's a white Texan man who so far we have no sexuality on? Like, are we just okay? I've heard either that or people going, well, if it wasn't for TK, we ship them. Actually, I haven't even heard it if it wasn't for TK. I've just heard we ship it. I'm like, come on, man. Carlos is right there.
Ew. I don't know. I like don't like that, but I was like, I don't know. It's funny people saying that, and I'm like, watch this guy have a freaking husband.
I want him to have a husband, please, at this.
But like, I don't. The only reason why I don't like that is because people are like, before this season even started, people are already be like, "Oh my God, what if something happens between them?" And I'm like, "Shut up, guys."
They just got married.
Yeah, literally.
Okay. The most I think is going to happen is that there's just going to be stress because of Carlos's investigation and work stress. I don't think we're going to have more than that. So, like, guys, calm down. Yeah. But yeah, I'm interested. This is obviously, we have more in this episode, but also just outside this episode, this is definitely not the ball. So I'm going to be interested to see like how their work dynamic is.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on now, we have Paul and Marshawn working out and Tommy overlooking it. So they're definitely getting competitive and physical. And this is not, I don't think this surprises any of us. We all know Paul and Marshawn.
They're both
very
like very competitive people.
Especially Marshawn. But Paul definitely holds his own in that regard. Like, he is also very competitive. And Tommy goes to tell Owen that he needs to pick soon because she thinks the pressure is getting to them. And Owen's like, pressure? Paul and Marshawn? They eat pressure for breakfast. I'm like, yeah, not wrong. Oh gosh. And so we proceed to see them just compete, like on a call where Marshawn stops a guy in a truck. He was thought to be drunk, but it looks like he was unconscious from carbon monoxide poisoning. His gosh, what is it? Fuel pump?
Yeah.
Fuselage? I got in.
Exhaust pipe.
Exhaust pipe, thank you. I could not come up with the technical term. The exhaust pipe had gotten clogged up with mud. So his cabin got it filled up with gas. So she literally jumps onto the moving truck that is doing donuts and stops the truck. And then on this other call, a woman's prosthetic hand falls off and her wedding ring was on it. And Paul jumps in like this grease trap. And both of these, especially the grease trap, was just like, oh no.
Nope.
I was just like, what? Who is allowing this? Because like, I mean, obviously I know they're literally doing what they can, but like, I'm also like, so we're going
no
to
safety key?
literally climb in there. Okay.
Okay then. And then, oh gosh, I forgot about this part. Paul and Marshawn fight over who's going to open up a hose line, and they wind up spraying Owen because they opened up the wrong line. And Owen's like, "You opened up the wrong one, didn't you?" And they both went, "He did it, she did it."
Right.
And it's like, you're like siblings ratting each other out.
Yeah.
This is like dad and siblings energy.
Yep.
I'm like, oh my gosh. It's like, their big brother Judd left. So like the twins, they're like twins that are vying to be like the dominant figure in the house.
Yep.
It's so, oh my gosh. So I was laughing the entire scene. And then we switched back to Judd. So Wyatt stops by before work. He sees Charlie and she's like, why? I'm playing Twain. And that's very cute, very ironic. With what happens later.
I know, I was like, hello.
Yeah, no. You know what? I didn't even think about that till now, but it's true. I'm like, oh, ironic, actually. And then Judd talks about how quiet the house is and his head spinning. Most of the time, if he gets lost, Grace helps him get back on solid ground, but she's not here. And then he talks about, he remembers her face when the people from Mercy Ship came to their church with like these pictures of little kids, and she couldn't forget about them. And Wyatt tells Judd he could ask Owen for his job back, and Judd doesn't want to take advantage of his friendship with Owen. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure Owen would pay you just to come back. Not even talking salary. He would pay you just to come back.
He would literally give you a bonus just to come back, just so he doesn't have to pick somebody else because, oh my God, that is gonna be complete chaos.
Yeah. He's already struggling. He's like anything. I'm pretty sure he promote Buttercup over the two of them just simply to keep the peace.
I miss
So,
Buttercup. Where
do
is
where is
he?
Buttercup?
Oh my
Where's
gosh.
Buttercup? Sorry, that was very loud. But where's Buttercup? Where's that? We need to put out that missing poster again.
I'll dust off the flyer, guys.
There we go.
I love it.
And so Judd says if Owen wanted me back, he would have asked. He thinks the 126 has moved on. I'm like, Judd, your pride is talking again. And so he thinks he has to do the same.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, is this another age-old issue of communication? Would resolve this in 5 minutes? Yes. However, it's a TV show. This is going to be dragged on for a while.
Yeah.
So
like-
then we go. Oh, what were you saying?
I'm interested to see because like similar stories on 911 and Lone Star, Judd gone, Bobby gone. I'm interested to see how fast it takes each of them. Who's gonna come back first? That's where my brain's going right
Okay.
now.
Yeah, I like
Because
that.
it's like so
That's good.
similar. Except for the fact that like the firehouse isn't gonna go to shambles because at least they still have Owen and Lone Star where that one, oh my God, they're suffering.
I'm terrified.
The stakes are definitely higher in
Yes.
911, but it's just not the 126 family without Judd. It's just
Agreed.
not. So then we go and we get a Carlos lunch date. And I'm like, yes.
Finally.
And it's clearly, they're both like they're both on break from work or about to go to work. Like this is like just a little snippet of time in their day that they're spending together. I'm like, this is so cute. So TK is saying how he doesn't know when they're going to do this couples hang because everyone's busy on certain days. Like everyone could do Friday, and Carlos is like, yeah, let's do that, but they can't because that's Carlos's nephew's birthday. And Carlos is absolutely not paying attention. And TK is like, where exactly are you right now, husband?
We got the first one.
I loved it.
Husband!
And
I'm going feral over here.
the first thing I thought when that happened was I'm like, that kind of sounded like something Grace would say.
My
Yes.
God, you're right.
Yeah. And yeah, also crossing back over 901, absolutely Athena as well. Like it had definitely had that influence there. I'm like, husband. It sounds so good. We have been waiting so long. Oh my goodness. So Carlos he's stuck on the armored car case, and he explains how Campbell called him out in a briefing, and TK's like the soup? His name's stupid, and second of all, he sounds like a complete idiot. Love TK being supportive of his husband.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Right.
Like, I think we're all like, I've literally seen people like online call him Ranger Soup, and I'm honestly here for it.
Yeah,
Your soup. Okay.
kind of love that actually.
Me too. That's giving me ideas for things I want to do.
And then Carlos says, except he's not. He's just coming from a different angle than he does. And honestly, like, kudos to Carlos for even, he disagrees with this guy on how to do things, but he's still extending him like the grace of being like, yeah, I mean, he's not doing a bad job. He's not being bad at his job. We're just doing it in a different way. I feel like a lot of people can't do that kind of like allowance. So honestly, I love that. I was like, very mature. I love that. And TK's like, maybe he's not an idiot. Do you have any leads? And Carlos is like, no, we're talking about this case with the only time. And he's like, sorry, I wasn't reading that right. Carlos is like, no, we're not talking about this case with the only time they're going to have with each other that day. And TK's like, babe, stop, come on.
Right.
I think TK's just very curious. and also supportive.
Yeah.
But very curious. He's nosy. And me too, honey. So Carlos tells TK his theory, pulls out his case file, but then TK has to go because a few traffic lights were out, and that gives Carlos an idea, and he has to go. It largely comes from TK talking about, yeah, I'm gonna have to take a different way. It's gonna take longer. And Carlos is like, aha. And I'm along for the ride at this point. I'm not following it. But I'm like, okay, whatever he says, I'm sure it makes sense. And it did. So he shows up at the call center, actually. Carlos shows up at the call center and asks for the shift supervisor. And he's wondering about 911 calls and he's wondering about 911 calls that could be these men diverting the armored car like into their traps. And he was wondering, they must have called them in, and we can't find any. We can't find any that but like line up with these incidents. But then Wyatt overhears it and says maybe they're trying the wrong number, and maybe the number they need is the non-emergency, which is 311. I'm like, Wyatt, you are smart. Good job. Carlos is confused, and then the shift supervisor, Sarah, explains that this is Wyatt, the news operator, just got his stripes last month, and Carlos says congrats. He's heard a lot about Wyatt, and then explains that he's friends with Judd and Grace. And then Wyatt asks if he's TK's husband, explains that TK saved him. I'm like, oh, this is so cute. Oh, the connections.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. And then Carlos is so proud to be TK's husband. It's adorable.
It
Uh,
is like it's so cool to see like just people that have like ties to like other people in their lives, but like they've never met on screen. Like we've never seen those characters interact, but seeing them like be able to interact is so interesting because we're all like in the same universe, but sometimes like these characters don't like
Mhm.
they don't get to like have like that meeting or whatever, but then somehow they have all these connections and you're just like,
Right.
oh, finally they're meeting. Like there's a reason
Mhm.
for them to meet.
Yeah.
for sure. I love just those little moments. And don't you know that they find a bunch of non-emergency calls exactly what they were looking for? All with the signature line too. They all open up with a "Hi, friend" in the most like, I just did an atrocious butchering of Southern accent, but like very,
Oh my god, it kind of like creeped me out a little bit.
yeah, it was slimy. It felt weird. It was like, oh, gross. Why are you talking like that? It's yeah, no. Yeah, the higher friend. Ugh. Anyhow, so Carlos presents what he found to Briggs,
Bridges.
Ranger Bridges, Ranger Bridges, and Campbell. And Campbell says how they should put a blowout, and the Ranger says, "This is Texas. They can't just, do that." And Carlos is saying how if they don't, someone else is gonna die, so they have to catch them. So then we switch over. Owen's checking in on Judd, and he tells him how he has to pick between Paul and Marshawn. Judd can't be much help, and like I think you can kind of tell that he was kind of hoping he was going to be asked back, and then Paul
Mhm.
looked down. I'm like, boy, you could have just said it.
Right.
I know, because like he only really like retired, like quote unquote retired because of Wyatt, and he
Mhm.
probably wasn't sure like if he would get back on his feet or if he would just be taking care of him for the rest of his life or what was going on there. And it was very
Mhm.
drastic, but it was also very sweet, like in the helping sense. And he had so much like vacation time like saved up. So it was like he was set for a while. But now it's like, now what do you have to do?
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
and I know I mean, I've had to deal with it with some friends and stuff, which just, it's called family medical leave. I mean, you can take it. You don't have to take your retirement. Sometimes it causes you to like drain all your like saved up sick time and personal leave time, but he didn't technically have to retire. He could have just taken like a sabbatical for like a year. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So a little bit of a drastic move there. Uh, but so then we have these best guys striking again, and they call it a non-emergency call. It was a water main break that they literally caused after the call.
Yeah.
But then they are tricked, and it turns out that the person driving the armored car was Carlos.
Yeah.
And as like they're literally about to shoot through like the windshield and everything. Rangers roll up, APD rolls up, everyone just rolls up
It was
and takes them down. And I love how Carlos said something. You need to change your MO to the main guy.
right.
I'm like, yeah, maybe something less creepy.
Yeah, kind of creepy.
It was a little bit creepy. So yeah, that was very satisfying. I was like, yeah, it was pretty great. So it was just good to see Carlos take him down again.
Yeah.
Doing
Yeah.
so great already.
Yep.
And then we have Carlos and Campbell making up. They're talking things out, calling things even. You know, good on you know, good on both of them for kind of acknowledging, Campbell was just thinking that Carlos was a Nepo baby, and Carlos was thinking that Campbell was competition rather than like a partner. And so they talked it out. I think I'm really excited to see them pairing up in future episodes for cases because I really feel like if they actually work together, their styles are going to complement each other. So I'm really hoping. I doubt this last we're going to see of Campbell. Obviously, he's been introduced like this, and I'm excited to see what happens there. I'm excited
Yeah,
to see.
I know the actor was cast for like a multiple episodes, so I know he's gonna be in it again.
Yeah. Same.
Presumably, at some point, he's going to be involved in some way with Carlos's investigation. Now, of course, it does have me wondering because we know that there was something crooked inside the Rangers.
Well, we
Well,
know that
That's where we
that's
left off.
Carlos's theory, in a
Carlos's
sense.
theory is that there's something crooked inside the Rangers. So I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it in the last episode when we were talking theories. I said I think that one of Carlos's reasonings for maybe joining the Rangers was to see if he could flush out who maybe tipped off somebody or caused his dad's death. That might have been like in-house.
Yeah. I see it.
Yeah.
And I'm even thinking like I can't even remember which series it was on. It was basically he had been a certain like a police officer, but then he was hired, or then he quote unquote was hired and quit his old job, but he actually didn't. He was like undercover as himself in another business department, something to help flush out some of this stuff, but it was actually an APD investigation, or like if it was Carlos. So I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. So if this is the case, then I'm expecting Campbell to either be helping out Carlos in some way or to be involved in some way.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see. Obviously, those are general predictions, but I feel like that's how these storylines tend to play out a little bit. Regardless of where it goes, I'm excited to see what happens next. Because then Campbell leaves and we see Carlos taking out his father's case file, and there's a photo in there of Gabriel in the morgue, and that hit.
I was crying, guys. I was crying. I was like, what the hell?
I didn't cry, but I was just thinking there. I was just sitting there and I was thinking, how many times have you looked at that particular photo? And then I'm like, don't like, yes, he had to miss his father for so long, but at one point does that photo start to be the most prominent memory he has of his dad? And like, this is not good long term at all. It's not good short term. None of the situation is good, but this is concerning, y'all. It's concerning.
Right.
He calls TK, tells him he's gonna be home late, and TK's like, "Promise me you won't get your dinner out of the vending machine this time."
And we got
promised.
two.
Yes, we got Lou too. He's just sitting there feeding Lou too. I'm like, that's so cute. I'm glad that he got Lou too. Now bring back Buttercup. Anyhow, if we got Lou too, we can get Buttercup.
Right.
I know, seriously, like, come on now. Please. Oh, so many thoughts. Like, Carlos is pulling this case file out of his locked desk at night when nobody's there, so there's a reason. Because
Right?
he technically
Yeah.
should not be investigating his own father.
Right.
It's too close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's so frowned upon. And I'm just like, well,
Mm.
this is gonna go off to the deep end. I mean, we already know that, but like this is gonna get so bad in so many ways.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not gonna be good.
I feel like he purposely did it when no one was around because he knows he has to be careful. Because I'm imagining the Rangers have probably turned it into a cold case or suspended
Mm.
an investigation because they have no leads or can't figure it out.
If it's
And
been 9 months, they're probably
Carlos
not still
like,
looking at it.
I don't blame Carlos for being like, I want to know. I'm going to continue to investigate it somehow.
And then we round off the episode by seeing a glimpse of the train derailment. And I'm glad that just from the look of it, yeah, I was a little worried. I'll be real. I was worried that the train derailment would be a little bit too much like 911
Yeah.
and theirs, but already, just from the looks of it, it's already a lot different.
Oh, it's
So,
very much different. Like they're
mhm,
so separate. And like I wasn't necessarily worried that it'd be like very like spot on to 911 because I'm like they're not gonna make them the same. But
mhm,
like I was like, how are they gonna make this different? Which obviously like it's it's gonna be like it's just gonna be different because we have like obviously like the gas
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
and stuff.
It's tanker cars, it's not passenger.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
different. So we're definitely going to be looking more at like the workers, if the workers survived the derailment,
Yeah.
and also the effect of the gas on the neighboring community and the affected places.
Right.
So I think it's going to be more widespread
Yeah.
than 911 was.
Yeah. And
Sure.
I think that was kind of why it's like a three-part because that whatever
Hmm.
gas, I think it is chlorine.
Yeah.
That gas can spread, and especially once it aerosolizes and it gets out into because of the explosions and stuff or whatever, it's out in the air. It can be toxic gas, and it
Hmm.
can go across areas. And I love that Wyatt got the call, and I think the guy said
Hmm.
something like, "I'm near the tracks" or something. He's like, "Well, if you're on the tracks, you need to get off of them." And the guy's like, "Yeah, I know. Well, the train's not either," or something like that. And I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's like, "Well, yeah."
Yeah. He said, I'm not on the track. And then Wyatt's like, well, why are you calling? He's like, because the train's not either.
Yes, that's right. I
Yeah.
was like, I
Like
knew it
that
was
should
something
be
like
funny,
that,
but it's a little bit funny. It's like, where'd the train go?
right? And then
Yeah,
you see it all.
it's like that. That is not how anyone would have expressed it in like IRL, but it works in a TV
Right.
show. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's definitely a little bit. So I don't know. I thought this was a great premiere. I think it's really promising for the rest of the season. We're already off the bat tackling a lot of the issues or like the main plot points. We're not putting them off till the end of the disaster or whatever, which is
Mhm.
good because we only have 12 episodes this season.
Yeah.
Like we need to tackle them quick.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I honestly no complaints, no notes. I was just really happy with everything, and I'm already happy that we're getting so much Carlos.
Yeah.
Very much. Yeah, I really liked it. It was kind of like one of those episodes where like once you got to like the halfway mark, you're like, oh shit, there's only 15 minutes left. Like,
Yeah.
damn.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I'm just like, oh, okay, this is where we're going. But they covered so much. Where like some episodes, like they don't really set up the emergency that well. And
Hmm.
I'm just like, oh, but like it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was a great start. I did feel like it was slightly slow going in that first scene with that kid and the bullies and
Mm.
I was like, okay, what are we getting at here? And then like
Mhm.
obviously when the person comes out of the bushes and we realize that I'm like, oh, okay, so this is like, and then we go back a week. I'm like, okay, this makes sense now. But it was just like, huh? And I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that Paul and Marjan are at it for Lieutenant, but I don't know. I'm like, I'm not feeling it. And I guess I'm just so used to them being friends and close, like that. I'm just like, yeah, I don't need to see them competing against each other. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
50-50 for me because in one sense I'm not surprised at all because they literally talked about this in like a lot of interviews
Yeah.
before the show even started, so we knew that was coming.
Right.
And then also like I'm like 50-50 on it because I don't know, like it's weird, but also like I'm glad it's them and not like somebody underqualified. Like they're both
Yeah,
qualified
Yeah.
people. Like it's not like they
extremely.
threw like Mateo in there and they already did that storyline
Mm,
in an episode and it literally made no logical sense.
Right. Yep.
yeah.
And yeah, so I'm and I'm 50-50. Like, is he gonna pick one, or is Judge just gonna say I'm coming back? I'm like, I figured Judd will be back in the next few episodes, so like we'll see.
I'm really suspecting that he's going to be back. I think by the end of the emergency, because I picture him taking a role in the emergency, or like realizing this isn't his blood, he needs to come back kind of deal. But
Mm-hmm.
also, I'm also aware that like they do have an impending deadline if Owen doesn't choose the chief
Right.
role. So I'm wondering if it's going to come to that. And so I don't know. I don't love seeing them competing, but they are also literally the best fits.
Yeah, they
Um,
are.
The,
Yeah.
the
like
chief. Is
obviously,
Billy still the chief?
He's
oh my
definitely
gosh,
chief, isn't he?
he's deputy chief.
Wait,
Yeah, is he? I don't remember.
okay
Oh,
though,
that would be funny
because
though.
Okay, let me put okay, I have a few thoughts running through my brain because I'm like, wait, who's the chief? Wait, isn't Billy the chief? The last time we saw him in like season 3, he
Yeah.
was. He got a
Hmm.
promotion. And then I'm like, yeah, but he's on Fire Country, so I can't really see that happening.
Yeah.
But they did have the other that originally brought Owen to Texas.
Yeah.
Um,
He retired
so yeah,
though.
he's did it?
He retired a
I don't
couple
remember.
seasons ago. Yeah, because
Oh, was
remember
the guy
he
was
wanted Owen to have the job. He was going to give
oh right
Owen the job
wasn't
and then
that
Owen
guy
turned it down. And then
was
Billy
oh
took
wait
it.
wasn't that guy actually just the deputy chief then and then because Billy's definitely not chief. He's deputy chief. So the other guy must have been deputy chief as well. Then who's the freaking chief? I don't know.
I don't think we've
Forgot why
met
that
the
was.
actual chief. Yeah, he's
Mm,
deputy chief.
okay.
I mean, there was that one guy that came in when Owen punched Billy and they had that whole like
Oh yeah.
that reprimand thing, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I don't
Uh,
know.
I
But
willfully do not remember that.
Right.
But
I'm
I
just
don't know. I feel like Billy could show up for at least another episode or two. I don't know. I also just kind of miss Billy a little bit.
Yeah,
But
he played Billy Burke, the actor, played Captain slash Deputy Chief William Billy Tyson. So
okay, cool.
yeah, interesting.
So we're going to see. Let's see what happens there.
But yes, he's on Fire Country. I really need to catch up with that. Oh, that's such a good show.
yeah.
It's on my to be watched list. So I might tackle it in like 3 years. Depending, depending on when things happen. But yeah, so I don't know. And I'm very interested to see what happens next with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just overall though, good episode. I'm really excited for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same.
And I'm gonna let one of you guys do the promo bit because of course I have not seen it, so I don't feel like I can talk about it
I just
accurately.
watched
Even
it so I could
You
handle
just
that.
watched it. Yeah.
cool. Okay.
I'll do
Or
the
if you
fan
do want
thought
to do
first.
fan thoughts, yeah, I forgot about fan thoughts.
It was interesting hearing everyone's opinions. Good, but not great. No grace, so points deducted. But we knew that. So I think that's confusing, but okay.
Mhm.
I could understand like the fan base, but I'm also like, we knew that. It wasn't a shocker unless I guess you don't pay attention to anything, but okay.
Yeah.
It was incredible. It's good to have them back on our screen. Agreed. Loved it. I think even though the season will be shorter, the pacing was good. Happy to see Wyatt.
Mm.
Phenomenal. What I loved the most is what we got. What we got in is like an introduction to the season before the train derailment. I actually agree with that a lot, and that was actually a really good point. I was like, wait, that's actually a really good point. Because sometimes like they don't like bring up like each storyline that they're gonna focus on
Hmm.
and stuff. They don't like introduce them. They kind of introduce them in bits, and then we just get the emergency, and so I feel like it flushes everything out. Where like we kind of got a good idea of what we'll be focusing on at least for this bit, and I'm sure they will introduce other minor things in there, but that was a really good point. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, that's it for those. We always love hearing them, so just whenever we post about them,
Abs-
just share them with us. We like
Yeah.
it. So the promo, so much happened. I
Yeah.
actually had to watch it like 5 times to be like, wait, did I miss anything? Marjan says something about like chlorine gas, and obviously we see it. And then in the call center, the lady that's in charge. My brain's not working, guys. So whatever. This is what your brain does when you literally recap an episode in literally less than a day. It just becomes mush. But anyways, so she says how we're looking at the worst mass casualty event in the history of Texas. And I'm like, man, those are some big claims, but I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're sure we did have the volcano.
And
And
the snowstorm.
And
Yeah.
like,
I mean, I
are
wouldn't
we
necessarily say the
sure?
snowstorm was mass casualties, but still
Certainly
a lot
casualties.
happened.
Volcano. Rest in
Volc-
peace, Tim.
Yep.
The one Marylander allowed per year on a show. Who's not Baltimorean, anyhow.
And then we see glimpses, and TK goes, "Oh my god!" And then we see him run in, which I'm like, "What is happening?" And then the 3-episode event continues. We see Paul and Owen yells, "Fall back." We see Nancy and someone else running. Couldn't really depict who it was. An explosion, and a fighter I think goes flying. Somebody. Owen has a lasso, and I'm like, love to see it.
When did he learn how to lasso?
Judd taught him a lot of
I blame
things.
Judd.
He's literally on the fire truck lassoing, and then there's a guy on a horse next to the fire truck, and I see him lassoing, and I'm like, man, Judd really rubbed off on him. Because, like, I have flashbacks of season 1 in my brain where I'm like, remember season 1? Literally, Judd had to teach Owen, like, everything, except for, like, line dancing, apparently.
Right.
And then Owen's just like, giddy up, which I thought was funny. And then someone is getting shocked clear. Owen says, "You ready?" And then Judd says, "I was born ready," or something along the lines of that. And like those were, I think, were different scenes, but like interesting. And then we see Carlos doing a police raid. Here to see it. All the content.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy says, like, she's like, hold on, I think she's driving the ambulance or something, and I'm just like, what is happening? And then we see a truck flip. I think it was one of those armor trucks again.
We're still doing that?
I don't know if I don't know, because they played another scene that was in this episode in this promo, and I'm like, we already saw that.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this wasn't more of a like, this is what you can expect on this season.
See, I think some of
Maybe.
it was
The 3-part.
probably for the episode 2, but I think some of it might have been mixed over. So I'm honestly very curious. What makes it in at least the next 2 episodes. And then Owen says, "Welcome to the party, Captain." And Tommy says, like, "Oh, we'll be ready," or something like that.
Well, you know what? The next couple episodes are going to be very interesting.
I know, yeah.
Yeah. And we look forward to hearing you guys' thought about them.
Yeah.
So definitely let us know before, during, after the episode. Obviously, careful with spoilers. And well, at this point, we're going to close out then.
Yeah. Well, and I was also thinking that, you know, just I know there's been talk of a potential spinoff with Tarlos. And so if there's any way that you guys can interact online, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it's called now, to keep Tarlos and 911 Lone Star trending, I think the better right now, because we really want Fox to see that they did a stupid thing. And I think it would be helpful for them to see the desire for us to have more Tarlos. Yeah. So if you can, I don't get to watch it live because I'm usually pretty busy, but I at least try to like reblog or retweet and some things just to kind of keep certain hashtags trending. So just a thought.
Oh,
Yeah. And I'm like, streams will definitely count as well too. Like, I do not have the ability of watching it live, but you know, stream it from legally sourced if you can. Obviously, we have a lot of people that are watching from different areas of the world who are not always able to watch it on legal sources very promptly. So, you know, you're doing what you're doing, but if you can, please watch it from a an officially recognized source so that they'll be able to see their numbers accurately reflected. And definitely, as EJ was saying, talk about it online, promote it. Even if, you know, we're looking at saying goodbye to Lone Star this season, but we might be able to get something with Carlos. And so who knows? Let's see what we got. At the very least, as I think I said last time, we at least deserve to give this show a good send off.
Amen. Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us and listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you guys get your podcasts. And be sure to check out our website, 911lsroundup.com. You guys can also follow the podcast on our socials at 911LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. As always, please be sure to join our Discord server. The link will be in the description of this podcast and also on our website.
You guys can follow me, Katie F. Love Tarlos, on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads.
You guys can follow me, Grace, at BrennanRatha911 on Instagram and at CheapGirl31 on Twitter.
And you can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and I have a TikTok, but I don't use it that much, and Tumblr. But
Oh.
bye.
Bye.